My name's Luke Deese, and God's given me the opportunity to be a missionary in Southeast Asia, the country of Cambodia, right between Thailand and Vietnam. And I'm there to start a school of worship to train worship leaders and musicians for the church there and around the world. Just wanted to share a quick testimony of what happened the other night. I was sent out by my wife to go buy a toothbrush for my daughter because hers got thrown away. And so just was headed out to the store to buy a toothbrush. I'm on my little Honda motorcycle riding through Phnom Penh traffic and on the way to the store. And I came across an accident scene. I saw a man that had been riding a little scooter and he got run over by a semi-truck. And not a pretty sight. He was laying on the ground on the side of the road and they were doing CPR on him. And there was a crowd around, and we're generally instructed to avoid crowds, so I just rode on by. I went to the store to buy my toothbrush for my daughter, and I came back maybe 15 minutes later. They were still doing CPR on him there as I drove by, going the other direction, and he was not responding to CPR, and there was still a crowd around him. So I rode on by, but as I rode, I thought about what I'd been teaching my students that week, and I thought about how I am an ambassador of the kingdom of heaven and that I'm called to represent God and his kingdom wherever I go. And so I said, you know what? An ambassador of the kingdom of heaven is not going to ride by a dead man and not represent God in that situation. So I turned my motorcycle around. I rode back up to the scene, rode right up to the crowd around him, and parked my motorcycle. I didn't even get off my motorcycle. I just sat there on my motorcycle. I stuck my hand out and maybe 5 feet from the body. And I started praying for him, and I'm watching, and I've seen God bring a dead guy back to life at least once before. I had some faith, but I was praying, and nothing happened. In fact, all that happened after about 5 minutes of praying is that the guy doing the CPR gave up and stood up, and everybody's standing around the body looking at him like, oh, this poor guy just got squashed by a semi-truck, and it just kind of the look on their faces and said it all, and he's just laying there. So I started praying in tongues. What else do? You just keep praying, and so I'm praying in tongues, and I'm looking down at the guy, and I'm looking up at the people, and down at the guy, and up at the people, look down at the guy. He's breathing. God brought him back to life right there on the pavement, and nobody was even touching him doing CPR. He was just laying there, and the look on the people's faces that were standing around him changed, and as they realized he's breathing again. And I doubt that many of them made the connection that I was there praying for him. It wasn't this big everybody gets saved moment, but I was there and I represented God, and the guy came back to life. And I heard the ambulance finally coming from behind me, and I was kind of in the way of where they needed to park the ambulance. So I just started up my motorcycle and rode home, took my daughter her toothbrush. And you just never know what opportunities you're going to get to take a step of faith, to pray for someone. And I didn't raise the guy from the dead. God did. But I was faithful to say, I'm an ambassador. I'm a representative. Who knows what will happen if I represent the kingdom of heaven in this situation. And in this case, it was a resurrection. It was absolutely amazing. He would have been dead for at least 20 or 30 minutes, and so he should have been a vegetable. But God brought him back to life. And praise God, just so awesome to serve him there in Cambodia, and I know that wherever you are, you serve the same God, and you have the same power in you that raised Christ from the dead. And I can testify he still raises the dead today.